The Senate Committee on Aviation 2 weeks ago began investigating the cause of the Associated Airline plane crash and the frequent air mishaps in the country. The committee continued with the public hearings during the week and invited the Minister of Aviation and heads of aviation parastatals to come and shed light on what caused the accident and the true states of the aviation sector. So let's find out what transpired during the public hearing.
Vehicles.
After several adjournments, the Minister of Aviation, Mrs. Stella Oduah, appeared before the Senate Committee on Aviation. This investigative hearing was called by the Senate after the Associated Airline plane crash to unravel the cause of the several air crashes and air-related incidences in the past few years. It also examined the state of the country's aviation sector. The minister and some aviation professionals tried to explain what could have caused the crash.
The most horrifying things we found were, number one, the safety and the security critical equipment and its installations were mostly in obsolete condition. Most of them were unserviceable, and in some cases were unavailable.
The minister also spoke of the challenges she inherited when she became minister, but the Senate leader was not satisfied and wanted more answers.
Also, we met completely decayed infrastructure at all the airports, and the dilapidated nature was just horrible. One of them is the firefighting. Just to give one example, the firefighting base we have, it's so sad that firefighters will not even want to stay there. And not just that bad, the equipment and the facilities they require to work with just doesn't exist. And so the airport facilities, we went around all the airport facilities. The airport services were so bad, the air conditioners were not working. Some air conditioners were older than some of our staff that we went around with. The toilets were horrible, the trolleys, the elevators. It's all in such a dilapidated and unserviceable nature. We have some of the pictures and we would like to share those pictures as we get there.
We want to know when was the aircraft purchased. We want to know when was the last C check done. We want to know who authorized aircrafts to fly. We want to know the pilots. What are their qualifications? The co-pilot, what is his qualification? We want to know what was the last flight that particular aircraft did, from where to where, who cleared this aircraft to fly that day. These are some of the questions that is supposed to be provided on incidences.
Lawmakers then directed questions to officials of the different aviation parastatals.
By NCAA rules and regulations, how old, what is the maximum age of a pilot? Because me, if I know a pilot is 64 years old, I will abort my flight.
The pilot in command was 64. It is also true that by law, pilots are allowed to fly to the age of 65. This is the position of the law. So he was properly certified to fly, sir.
Which section of the law? Which book? Which of the law? Now we want to know.
The NCA regulations, there is a limit. There is an age limit. The age limit is 65, sir.
Regulation is a policy. It's not law. It's not in the act. It's a regulation.
It's in the regulations, sir. The age limit is 65. There are certain provisions.
Is it international standard or Nigerian standard?
It is international, sir.
I think there is some history to whoever it was that certified that aircraft. I want you to, answer to that question.
As to who actually released the aircraft, yes, the person is alive. As we said, it's a shared responsibility. We have been interviewing all the people that came in contact with that particular flight, whether directly or even indirectly. Not only the engineer, all the service providers, the regulatory agency and so on, and it will come out in the final report.
A colleague of ours claimed that that particular flight is supposed to be what you call test flight, because there was so many engineers on board, or particular, even though it's not easy to repair an aircraft in mid-air, but that was the claim. What I'm concerned about is there a rule that once you do a check on an aircraft, then it has to go for a test flight first before it's did this aircraft go through the test flight before this particular flight that resulted in that accident?
There are requirements in broad terms where an airplane might be required to do a test flight, having done some checks or having had some things done. But ordinarily, just because an airplane has not been flying for a month does not mean it requires a test flight. Available information does not indicate that this airplane required a test flight. Available information also does not justify that this was a test flight. So, what we have on record is the airplane flew on the 30th, and it was not a test flight on the 30th, according to what we have. So, there was nothing that was done that required a test flight. And from the records I have in front of me here, sir, it says the last minor check was carried out. I emphasize minor check was carried out on the 14th of June 2013.
The investigation is expected to continue at a later date, but what many Nigerians are concerned about is how far-reaching the recommendations from the investigation will be to make the aviation sector safer.